Hey folks, crazy day in the markets here. You can see we finally had our first day of weakness since I can remember, since down here. The market was only down a little bit, getting down to close to 20-day moving average, but there was a lot of damage underneath the hood of the market in terms of market breadth. You can see in terms of, stocks making significant moves. I mean, there's 400 and something stocks that made stronger than 5% moves to the downside. That's a lot of selling underneath the hood of the market. So just something to be aware of. Russell got smoked, 1.6%, back to the 200-day moving average. So the good thing is, we are getting to some support levels, in the Russell and the S&P. The one thing is the 200-day moving average doesn't really mean crap with the Russell. You can see it just kind of knifes through it like it doesn't even exist. So, we'll have to see if we get some traction here or not. But nasty day today. This oil thing really doesn't help, with the oil complex just getting totally smoked out. So we'll be defensive. The thing is, like when you're running scans and stuff, and, like I run scans every night, and when you're running your scans and the only things that pop up are like freaking gold stocks and stuff, I mean, it's just a brutal day. Like, who the heck is going to trade freaking BVN? Gold stocks suck to day trade. They really do. I mean, I guess they've got a little bit more juice right now because there's a lot of volatility. But, for the last so many years, they've just been terrible traders. They really just crappy traders. I very rarely trade gold stocks. But then on the other side, I very rarely trade oil stocks, and they've been running too. Why is this? Where? So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Let's take a look at the watch list. I got this GDP on watch. You can see here we've got some mega down days. It's just $11 a few days ago, $30 before. We had a nice run up into the close. You can see here we had a really nice kind of trending environment after the open. If this thing opens up weak and we kind of double bottom down this way, I'll look to kind of pick some of this off long. If it opens up strong, but you can come out of this trend line, we may be able to, still play it, depending on what else we're seeing in the markets and things like that. These things are smoked. The thing with these type of stocks is they don't make bottoms in a linear fashion where you just spike down, you make your bottom, and then that's the end of the ball game. They typically have a couple false moves. You may come and retest even one or two times, more times, before you actually meaningfully start to get the bounce. And then, of course, just the price of oil is going to really, help too, is, you need to see the snapback in oil. Vigil, you can see here, man, this thing is just hanging out. I tried to long this thing twice today. A little sucker just wouldn't go. But you can see, like, overall, it's just not dying. It did drop down to 250, but then it just popped right back up. It seems like it's one of those stocks that, everybody wants to short it, but it just hasn't had enough of a push to really get a good, easy-go-lucky short entry. We'll be watching this one. BCI, same type of plan as GDP. If you get some weakness down here, we'll start to see if the lows hold, and then you start to see, higher lows or something along that end. VA, this one's going to need more time, but you can see, like, you're getting close to an IPO breakout, but typically you want to see, I'd rather see a third tap. So, like, I'd like to see a couple days pull back and then go, or some backing and filling, because a two-tap, it can go, but it's not that powerful. If you can pull back and kind of back and fill and get that third one, then you're going to have a much more powerful play. I like the look of it. The other thing is I believe this is an airline, so if oil goes up, maybe this one comes down. So you may be even able to short this thing up here and catch a quick counter trend bounce. But overall, I mean, this is like, one of the strongest stocks in the market. HABT, looking for a red to green on this one. If we see some weakness and this thing opens up weak and then you start to see it rebound, I'll take this thing long. I mean, you could tell. I mean, this was the strongest stock in the market today. I mean, up 13%, had some volume. It was a nasty day overall. You got to like the reaction this had after this big flush. It's starting to make its move, so we'll watch it to see if it opens up weak, and then we'll try to take this thing and see if we can get this thing up to $40 or so. And then ICE, IPO stock had a monster run. I mean, up over 50% its first couple days. Now we had a 6-day pullback. if this thing snaps down at the open tomorrow and opens up weak, we may get the snapback tomorrow. Watch this level down here too. You can see, we were starting to base out today. If it opens up flat but starts to come out of this range, you may start to see the snap, and you can see how much upside's in this thing in terms of you can make a couple dollars for risking 20 cents. And if it opens up below this area, I look for that big early morning flush and then some type of rebound, hopefully. Either an intraday base breakout, a squeeze zone, something along that end. But, guys, tread carefully, trade light tomorrow. I usually have 20, 30 stocks on my watch list. Today, it was hard even finding 5 or 6. They all look the same. All the oil stocks look the same. We had the same plan for them. And then there's just happen to be a few other stocks that are okay, like HABT. Nothing else is going on. Unless you want to day trade some bunk gold stock like freaking PZG. I mean, this stuff is just impossible to trade. The move happens in the gap, and then it just kind of farts around. That's the thing with gold is that, you get the gap move, and then you don't necessarily get the rest of it. Sometimes when you want to trade gold, it's just easier to use one of these freaking beacons of death like Nugget. I mean, this is, by the way, the beacon of death. If you're a rookie trader and you're trying to flip around 1,000 shares of this thing, you're just going to get your hands cut off. If you're a rookie or something, you're trying to get into Nugget or JDST or some of these type of names. I mean, look at how much they move. I would go with like 100 shares, 200 shares max, something like that, something small, and take a multi-dollar rip rather than trying to get 1,000 shares and take 20 cents because these things just, I mean, I've gone twice now, and I've had to go take a pee, and come back, and it's like, you could have a 50-cent movement in this thing. Not worth it. You don't want to be blowing up accounts and stuff like that. So that's it, guys. Trade light tomorrow. Be careful, and I will see everybody in the chat room tomorrow. Peace.